I don't know. It is. They do mention that Horrocks is drunk.
Yes, that's true.
Horrocks.
He's an Irishman.
But but here's, Ian's also like really shaken up.
Welcome to Outlander Revisited, a series where we rewatch, review, and discuss episodes of the television series Outlander.
So I'm joined today with Elizabeth, and we're discussing Season 1, Episode 13, The Watch. The men of The Watch arrived at Lallybrook, and Jamie pretends to be a Fraser cousin. Claire realizes that Jamie's impending childbirth will be dangerous. Will be a dangerous breech birth, but Jenny swears her to secrecy. The redcoat defector, Horrocks, appears and threatens to reveal that Jamie has a price on his head unless Jamie pays him.
To see
Jenny's husband Ian kills Horrocks,
special thank you to all of
coming
my guests.
clean to the watch leader.
And if you would like to be a guest yourself on a future
Jamie agrees
episode,
to join their
please leave a
raid.
comment
Jenny
telling
gives
me
birth to a
what your
daughter
favorite
with Claire's
episode
help.
of the series is,
Meanwhile,
and I will
the
do my
raiding
best.
party is ambushed, and Jamie is captured by the redcoats. Horcrux. Horrocks. I'm reading Harry Potter every night to my kids, so I got these words keep creeping into my head.
We can associate him with Voldemort. It's okay.
Yeah, he's definitely the bad guy of this episode. But the first bad guy we meet is Macquarie.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird though, because then Jenny just kind of bursts in on the scene and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" She just diffuses it, but you can see like in her eyes, this is still a dangerous situation because she doesn't say his real name. She's like, "Oh, it's my cousin," but she really is. She's good. Like I really like. She diffuses situations. She takes control. She is just always fixing something. And I feel like Claire tries to do that, but Claire actually messes things up quite a lot.
She goes a little bit too far. Claire does, but so Jenny walks the line very well, and these are apparently some sort of mob protection. We were introduced to the idea of the Watch being these people will do anything for money. They'll steal if they have to, but also they act as some sort of protection for, I guess, some of these lower houses, these lower lards who don't have like standing armies, who don't have Dougal and his men to protect the villagers. But they're still shady people.
Mercenaries. They're just mercenaries. They're they're for hire. They don't really have a loyalty to anyone. Which I don't think that most people trust. And so Jamie's pretty angry that they've established this relationship with the Watch. He's pretty he's taken aback and he's angry. He's like shocked that they would do such a thing. But funnily, when they sit down to dinner and Macquarie starts talking, I think Jamie kind of likes him. They have something in common, this like common kindred spirit or something.
He's interesting because he starts off, you want to hate him, and then slowly throughout the episode, you kind of start to get more interested in what this guy's about. And Jamie, so he starts pressing Jamie on his story. And Jamie's probably worse at this lying thing than Claire is, because he keeps going into more details. And we served in Spain or wherever, or I forget what country. I think he said Spain.
France. They were all in France.
They were all in France. So, but Jamie's never been to France. So, right?
He has.
He has. Oh, okay.
No, yeah. So he and Ian actually did. That's where Ian lost his leg.
Oh, okay. So they were together. I thought that was a story.
Yeah, so they really were together in France, but so these are actual shared experiences that they're reflecting on. But then I think Macquarie is like, wait a minute, we've reminisced so many times about France. Your cousin Jamie has never come up in any of these stories. That's a little suspicious. So I don't know. He's a smart guy.
Yeah. Okay. So he wasn't that bad at lying. I thought he was making that stuff up. So you see that Ian and Macquarie are friends.
Yeah, like I said, it's that kindred spirit thing. They've had sort of some shared experiences. They recognize that. They recognize something in each other. But Macquarie's men are really awful.
Yeah.
You know, you can't help but be judged by the company you keep sometimes. Right? And these guys are really awful. Like immediately, you know, Jamie's like shoeing his horse or whatever, you know, and accusing him like, you know, you're not taking care of these horses. And you know, there's like this little exchange with one of those guys, and this jerk just sets the hay on fire with stolen tobacco. And I don't know, you just then an all-out brawl, because that must happen. As soon as someone tells Jamie to keep his head down, he has to brawl.
Yeah, don't draw attention to yourself. Don't get into fights with these guys. Yeah. So I guess
immediately, now granted, he was provoked. I will give him, he was provoked, but he is incapable of keeping his head down. Like,
yeah, and Ian calls him out on it, being like, "Hey, you can't be like this around these guys. You got to just kind of take your lumps." And he admits to liking Macquarie, and he enjoys his time with Macquarie when he comes around, and he could take more from this place than he does, and that's why they put up with him. So it's not so much that they offer him protection, which I imagine they need protection. I haven't seen any soldiers or any people around.
I mean, so for as much as we love Ian, right, and he's a great guy, he's not fully like able, right? And so
he's missing a leg.
People might see him as being vulnerable and maybe not fully capable of protecting his house. There also aren't any other men around.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't. Well, there's the tenants, but it doesn't. Ian's not the laird of the castle, so these men don't owe him any kind of
allegiance. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I guess there's no standing army here. They don't have enough money to pay soldiers to just protect the farms.
Right.
So they allow the watch to come in, and Ian says that Macquarie doesn't look at him as incapable or less of a man.
No, it's not that, but I think that people, I think that at large people might perceive that. So I do think that they feel a little bit vulnerable. Macquarie doesn't seem that way, I don't think. It's a different time, you know, like people don't have, you know, very PC, you know, ideas about those who have some sort of a physical disability, right?
Yeah, and even in the other episode, Ian says that he noticed when Jamie looked at him for the first time in a long time that
it shocked him to see me like this at first. He tried to hide it, but I knew.
He gave him a look of sympathy, like he's not really a full man anymore. And so that's probably why he enjoys Macquarie coming around to tell war stories and forget that he's hobbling around and not living that soldier life anymore.
Yeah. And then we see Horrocks.
Looking like a pirate.
Looking an awful lot like Robin Williams. I'm just going to keep pointing out things as I see them. It strikes me every time, though. I'm like, oh, you look like Robin Williams at the beginning of Jumanji.
Oh, okay.
Like with all the beard and like the long
I just thought you looked like a pirate coming in. He's got his hat.
Yeah. But I don't know. This is scary. Yeah. You're like, oh God.
Macquarie's already suspicious of Jamie, and then he notices Jamie and Horrocks staring into each other's eyes longingly.
I know, God. Macquarie is not a dummy. So, yeah. So this frustrates me, but what can we do? Here he is.
Yeah, he waits until they're in private, and then he goes to extort Jamie, realizing that this is his castle. So you want me to keep shut?
Yeah.
You're going to pay me a handsome fee.
Yep. And of course, also during this time, Jenny goes into labor.
Mm-hmm.
And this labor lasts through more than half of the episode.
Yeah.
So it's a slow labor. It's not coming on quick, and it's like, but pretty immediately, it's going to be dangerous because Claire identifies that the baby is breech and all this, but Jenny's not too concerned. She's like trying to give her like advice about how to get pregnant.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh, you'll have some bairns soon. But yeah, so this is kind of just continues throughout the entire episode though for the rest of it.
Yeah, and they kind of have a little chat about Claire's possibility of having children, which has come up before. Galis has mentioned it's possible you've been married for a long time with no children. It's a possibility you can't have children. And that comes up again when talking to Jenny. And then she admits it. And somewhere in between there, she talks to Jamie and admits that it's possible that she should have told Jamie it's possible that she's barren.
Yeah, this was a really sad moment because it's all about it's like about this money that he's going to give Horrocks. But he's really upset about it, and he's like apologizing to her because he's like, this was for our family and for our children. And then, Claire is just kind of stricken, tears in her eyes, feels like she has to fess up. And honestly, like I feel like this is really mature of Jamie right here because he is visibly disappointed, but then he pretty quickly is like, oh no, it's okay. And like, he's really trying to make her feel better. She leaves the room to go back to, to get back to Jenny. And he just kind of sits down. And I think that kind of, that heavy look that he's got, I mean, he didn't show it to her, but he's really disappointed. He really he had ideas about what his life would be like, with all these kids.
Yeah. Yeah, we get more of that. I forget, Jenny says something fascinatingly psychological.
It's a feeling like when your man's inside you. When he comes to you deep and pours himself inside you, and that throbbing begins.
Just showing how like smart Jenny is about how she's equating giving birth to actually being with a man. And how she thinks like men, when they're having sex, are trying to climb back in somehow.
That's what they want sometimes, They want to come back.
It's just ironic. Wild.
I didn't remember that part.
It's in there, it's brief, but I heard it and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, I forgot about that part. That's a little weird.
But it is, she talks about, that's when she mentions her mother died in childbirth. And also that they had another brother.
Yeah, so Willie, he died of smallpox. And Jamie was 8.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of...
And then there's that little snake. The little carved snake that Willie made for Jamie.
Yeah, a little reminder. So a lot of death in this family, and so it's just Jamie and Jenny left now, and they're worried about, and she's worried about her own birth. So thinking about, and back then, giving birth was it's really weird. That's risking your life to bring a child into the world.
I mean, it's really kind of an amazing evolution like it's not sound. Like this is not a good evolutionary process. the way that human beings do this. But yeah, I think Claire kind of has this moment of, oh boy, you know, she's confident in a lot of things, but you know, there's no help here. It's like her and Jenny, and there's no midwife coming.
That's right. The midwife can't make it.
You know, like she's on her own, like on this, and you know, Jenny won't let her tell anybody that this could be
a bad one,
a serious situation, and so she's just trying to figure it out and help how she can, but it's not a good situation for Jenny, for sure.
No, but she goes into it, and you know, she's determined to see it through. It's because the baby is breached, so it's coming out the opposite way, and she says, well, she's determined to land on her feet. She's stubborn like a Fraser.
Yep.
She mentions her.
Makes it.
She asks for a drink of whiskey, which Claire says, then the baby will be drunk. And
Stiff dram before we start.
In that case, the baby will likely be drunk too.
Then he'll come into the world a true Scot.
Yep. So it's really, I mean, it's a happy ending for the baby, right?
Yes.
And for her, but we skipped the whole thing
with Horrocks.
We skipped Ian. Yeah, so like with Horrocks, how Ian stabs him from behind.
Okay, so Jamie meets Horrocks in the woods. Jamie gives him the money, but Horrocks doubles down and says, "You could pay me more."
Oh, right.
And in that moment, even Horrocks knows what he's asking, and that Jamie's probably going to try and kill him instead of just paying him up. And
and he's got the gun, because you see him when he goes up there. I'm like, oh no, he's packing. Like, this might not be a good idea, but I don't know, man. Ian with the running through from behind, like, ooh.
And how did Ian, with his one wooden leg, sneak up in the woods during that conversation? It's a little out there. Maybe he knew the terrain better.
Maybe he's stealth. I don't know. It is. They do mention that Horrocks is drunk.
Yes, that's true.
Horrocks.
He's an Irishman.
But but here's, you know, Ian's also like really shaken up, because he's like, I thought I'd killed my last man, and then like Jamie helps him talk it out, and then they, you know, but then you got McQuarrie wondering where the heck Horrocks is, while, you know, Jenny's still laboring upstairs.
Oh yeah,
like this labor.
She's screaming.
Like, but they're all like, "Where's Horrocks?" And then finally he's like, "Well, we gotta go."
Yeah, Jamie tells
do this raid, and I'm down a man.
Jamie tells a half truth. He goes, "Yeah, I killed him." He knew I was a wanted man. Doesn't explain that he's actually the laird here. Just says that he knows I'm a wanted.
Oh, true.
He kept part of that from him. But he just says he knew I was a wanted man. He was going to turn me in, so I killed him. To which McQuarrie goes, "Yeah, that's what I'd do too."
He calls him just like the Irish bastard. Never really liked the Irish bastard.
And then he talks Jamie into
man, and he's like, "I want you to come with me."
Yeah, and you know, Jamie goes, "Okay, that's probably the only way to clear this up quickly." But then Ian jumps in too, unnecessarily, uninvited.
Ian's like, "I just killed a dude." I'm feeling like, you know, whatever.
I'm a man again, and it goes back to that.
I can swashbuckle a little.
It goes back to that being emasculated a little bit, because Jamie goes, no, you should stay. And then McCoy's like, no, he's a man. He can make his own decisions.
Yeah, I think he says, well, he's got two hands. Yeah. He can shoot, you know. Like, you're going to be on horseback, right? We're not really relying on Ian to be able to take off running.
They think it's going to be a piece of cake. They're robbing another rent train or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but when they actually get in there and then Jamie starts to realize, he's looking around, he's like, yeah, this is a great place for an ambush.
And we're in an ambush.
Look, oh crap. And of course he gets carried off. Did we actually see him get carried off by the
No, because the next scene we get is Jamie and Claire holding the baby. And they talk about that, you know, Jenny tells Claire, oh yeah, Jamie's coming back. I sat here for 4 years waiting for him to come back, and he came back. But then Ian comes hobbling up.
She gives her she gives her mom's bracelets.
Yeah, which looks interesting. Those almost looked Viking as well.
They look like they're made out of boar
tusk.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, they looked very tribal.
And then the dogs start barking, and they're like, "Oh, someone's coming. Who is it?" And it is not
Jamie. It's Ian, who says
Ian, though, thank God.
He lost his leg and his horse.
And one of the watch. Not even one of the ones we like. But at least he brought Ian home. Maybe he's not a complete jerk.
Yeah. But and they find out Jamie stayed back with McCoy, so I guess those two are both alive and captured by.
Captured.
If I would have taken off with a raiding party while my wife was giving birth, she would have killed me herself. Like she's.
Better hope the red coats kill you, because if you come back here.
Yeah, the whole time they just made it woman time. There was no men involved in the birth at all.
I don't think at any point.
Oh, no?
Any point in the show. Any guys around when these things are happening.
And that leads to the Great Scott Award. I want to give an honorable mention to Ian. Really manned it up. But I'll just make it a point now that anybody who gives birth in this show is getting a Great Scott Award, because that was not easy.
So it's Jenny 2 times in a row?
This is her second award. She joins the ranks of Column as only one having 2 awards so far. So she really stole the show.
Thanks for watching Outlander Revisited. And a special thank you to all my guests. If you would like to be a guest on a future episode, please leave a comment telling me about your favorite episode. Also, email me your contact information at the email address found in the description and on the About tab on my YouTube channel. Thank you.
I knew in my heart I was no longer in the 20th century.